welcome back. I'm Katie Kempner with CPB, and we are here live on the Huffington Post stage here at Advertising Week. So in addition to my role at CPB, I also am the creator of an online talk show where I interview remarkable working women balancing busy lives. And if you want to check it out, you can go to katiekempner-perspectives.com. Today, I am really lucky to have a new friend of mine, Jennifer Frommer, the SVP of Global Branded Content at Interscope. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So I know you started in advertising, and you've had this great, career, and then you moved on to the recording industry. Or did you say the recording industry or the music business?
Music industry.
Okay. You need to be a little
Entertainment
cooler.
industry.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of your career trajectory?
Sure. I started out at DDB, where I was a digital art director. I was definitely a pioneer in developing integrated programs that lived on the digital side of the fence. When the internet was first coming into its own, I was an early adapter and an evangelist, if you will, of digital content for our clients from a creative perspective. But I always had the music bug in me, and I always wanted to work in the music industry because I was a music fan and a musician of my own right. And so I looked around and I searched and I cold called. I'm very aggressive and I'm very relentless, and I was able to get a job for myself heading up Sony Music's digital division. And again, I was always the person who, I see myself truly as an evangelist, figuring out how to take new models, new forms of content, and integrating them with artists and brands, etc. And back in the day, it was a fascinating job where I literally was flown around the world to teach artists about technology and the internet. I actually went to the Neverland Ranch and sat with Michael Jackson and showed him the internet. So that's a little bit of my background. From there, I continued to put together ideas with content and brands, and now I'm at Interscope, where I'm SVP of Branded Content.
And you have a really cool job at Interscope. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Sure. So at Interscope, it's interesting, as we were chatting about before, I'm truly in the center of lots of people I need to put together. I'm a diplomat, I'm a marriage counselor. I have many clients that I service at any given time, and my clients would be an agency, a creative director at an agency, a brand, a CMO, a brand manager. Then I have the artist side. So I'm truly in the middle between the people who want to interact with my artists, and then I need to make sure I service the artist and their manager. So I'm sort of in the middle, making matches. I'm out every night with my artists and bringing people to meet with our artists at shows, at showcases in the studio, dinners with artists and someone like yourself, or a creative director, or a brand manager, and I put together marriages of sorts and figure out how to make a deal where my artist's content is integrated into a campaign.
So you really created this great place for yourself doing the things that you love to do.
Correct. It really started because I love shopping and I love clothes. So I think that's how it started.
Ditto.
Exactly, as we talked about. And I thought, what can I do where I'm looking after the things that I love, trends, pop culture, music, fashion, makeup, etc. How do I put together nightlife, if you will? How do I put these things together that work and make sense in relation to doing deals? And I love art in all forms. And so oftentimes we'll do big fashion programs where it's a capsule collection, but proceeds are going to the artist's charity. And so as long as there's an underlying message of art that we can weave in, that's when I'm at my happiest, and that's when I feel most successful.
And you forged what I find so interesting about this is, you started out in advertising, but you carved your own niche, you forged your own path, which I think sometimes when women are starting out, they're like, well, I like to do this, I like to do this. That isn't a job, so right. I'm going to have to choose. Do you have any advice if someone wants to find their own way like that?
I had a woman, and someone I worked with a long time ago once said to me, and it's really stuck with me, find a hole and fill it. And I think that as women, we oftentimes are just kind of stuck in our boxes. We're doing so many things. We're juggling our lives, our families, and everything that we're doing in our jobs, and you have to, and I base it on creativity, because you have to have a very open mind and be completely creative in order to say, oh, wait a minute, there's something missing over there. That's what I want to do. I'm going to go and do it. And as I mentioned, I feel like every job that I've had, I've pretty much invented for myself. It's true. Actually, this job, and now that now that it's all becoming clear as we speak. But I've invented every job I've ever had for the most part.
So it can be done. You just have to really follow your
Absolutely,
passion.
and you have to look for it, find it. You have to be able to define it. It can't be loosey-goosey. My dad has a term he calls a non-job. It can't be a non-job. It has to be something that is completely defined. Once you define it, I believe, and I know it, I'm proof, you can go out and get it.
Now, I know that, I mean, you sacrificed a lot to create this, and you were telling me that for 4 years when you took the job at Interscope, you actually moved to LA and your husband stayed in New York?
Correct.
That's a huge sacrifice.
It was very difficult. It was not easy. People say, oh, that's great. You don't need to be with your husband all the time. You're free. Really, it's harder because it takes so long to kind of get back into a groove and get back together again. And I'm still on a plane every 2 weeks. I'm still in LA. I'm based in New York, but I'm in LA every 2 weeks. And you have to figure out how to manage your travel and your time. You have to set up, times that you know that you're going to be together.
Yeah.
And we got really into long-term planning, which I know sounds ridiculous, but we're kind of planned through November right now. So,
hey, if it works,
that's what works for me.
So I want to ask you one more question before we end, which is, if you have a piece of advice for the women here today walking around who are either starting out in their careers or looking to make a change, what would it be?
I think, harkening back to what we were just chatting about, you have to know what you want to do. That would be step one. Figure out what you want, and then research and go after what you want. But be prepared. Don't do exhaustive research, and don't be afraid. I pick up the phone and I call strangers still, even now at my level. I call strangers or I email strangers every single day. Don't be afraid. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? They don't get back to you, but I like to call myself gently aggressive, and that's my advice. Be gently aggressive. Figure out what you want, go out and get it, and chase it in a nice way.
I like to call myself pleasantly firm. Gently aggressive, pleasantly firm.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks so much.
And thank you. I hope you enjoyed all these perspectives. And once again, if you do want to check out some of my other ones, you can go to katiekempner-perspectives.com. Have a great day.